Amazon's really good at reselling stuff. And, and like, the other day I was like searching for something and Amazon's like, oh, you bought this in, 2011 or something. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy it again.
I think one of the biggest challenges that brands are facing right now is really connecting media, their media investment to tangible growth and sales, right? So really understanding this broader purchase behavior really gives you that flexibility to calculate your cost per acquisitions.
Hi there, I'm Patrick Miller, co-founder of Flywheel with my colleague Molly. And Molly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Molly Xie, a data scientist here at Flywheel. My main focus here is leveraging AMC data to help clients drive growth on the Amazon platform.
Excited to dive in to the 5-year look back on Amazon Marketing Cloud. Give me an overview of sort of what are the set of insights and how are you thinking about it?
We're actually super happy to be a part of our first to market partnership with Amazon, working with the new 5-year purchase look back data set in AMC. So this new data set is really allowing advertisers to query up to 5 years of user shopping signals inside AMC compared to the standard 13-month limit that we have up until now. So really cool because just think about how your customers' buying habits evolve over time, right? So Previously you can only see that 13-month snapshot of your customer journey inside AMC. And I think that 13-month window is definitely too short for categories with, longer purchase cycles, such as durables, high value CPG companies, or your heartlands. This limited time frame is really making it tough for brands to really analyze kind of repeat purchase patterns or even long-term value over time. Now with this 5-year window, you're exploring the complete customer cycle for your product. So this is a really game changer for brands really looking to understand the full customer journey, long-term value, and seasonal trends. So Very cool.
One of the things I find fascinating with it is like it is perfect determinism. And so even if you're using probabilism to do your targeting, that it is, it's a perfect window as far as, what value do, a cohort of customers create, for a brand, over, a much longer period of time than what we would be able to see before. And, it's like, for me, like I look at it, I'm like, man, Amazon's really good at reselling stuff. And, the other day I was like searching for something and Amazon's like, oh, you bought this in, 2011 or something. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy it again. Like it worked well. And, but to see that, those insights then expressed, via AMC is fascinating. What surprised you as you've dug into it?
So I think it's really interesting because I think one of the biggest challenges that brands are facing right now is really connecting media, their media investment to tangible growth and sales, right? So really understanding this broader purchase behavior really gives you that flexibility to calculate your cost per acquisition. So the brands can really optimize their campaign strategies to drive higher conversions, ROI, because, when we're talking about long-term growth, you are not only attracting new to brand customers, you're also trying to retain your customer, right? So really understanding that long-term value really helps you optimize your media strategies.
One of the plots that you put together that I thought was fascinating was looking at tentpole events. And so tell me a little bit about what you've seen, on tentpole events, as you look at over a longer period of time.
With the 5-year purchase data, we can really analyze the performance around tentpole events, such as Prime Day or Black Friday, where it's more promotional, right? So we can actually track users' behavior before, during, and after these major sales events, and then figure out what ASINs actually drove that conversion or act as a POMI ASIN or point of market entry to a brand. And then if my new to brand shoppers are mainly deal seekers, and now, repeat purchase behavior looks like, over time, how that looks like over time. So really giving you that actionable insight to optimize your future strategies during those events. And then I think we've been doing analysis for a nutritional brands, right? So we are noticing that that their brand is more promotional over tentpole events. And we noticed that the user who purchased during New Year, New You actually saw a more return, like they return a lot more than those who bought during the Prime Day event. So this is really interesting to see because recognizing the uniqueness of each brand, you can actually craft your new to brand metric that way.
Yeah.
So.
I thought it was interesting. It's sort of like, people actually kept their New Year's resolutions, much more so than I expected. And, and that, it's in certain, and just sort of recognizing that, every tentpole is different and every brand is different. And and this allows us to sort of look at sort of the uniqueness of each brand and then how customers interact with that brand, longer term. And for this, the brand we're talking about is sort of like the idea of like, we can look across these various tentpole opportunities to pull in, new to brand, customers, but there's a variance in sort of the LTV by tentpole. And so like, as I think about future strategies for them, I'm like, let's double down on New Year, New You, because those customers create more value than the other tentpole events. What about like, as you look at sort of, you said the word, point of market entry. Can you sort of define that and then, talk a little bit about sort of the analysis that you do there?
So basically, the as we know that the extended time frame really allows brands to track and measure the full progression. We're talking about the full progression over an extended period of time, over 5 years. So we are able to actually see the customer's journey from their initial point of market entry as a new to brand product to their expansion across the other products within the brand portfolio. I think this data is really going to help you identify which ASINs serve as the entry point and driving shoppers to a brand. And then they started to explore additional ASINs within your catalog, because imagine you're selling a premium hair care products, right? So with a traditional 13-month view you get in AMC, you might only see that your customers buy hair serums every 4 to 5 months. But with this 5-year data access, you can see actually the complete picture. For example, customers start with basic shampoo purchases for the first couple months, and then they upgrade it to premium options. And then over the next year, they begin exploring serums, supplements and stuff, and eventually becoming loyal customers. So really, really helpful when you are trying to identify, what serves as market entry, and then try to retain them and make sure that your strategies, media investments, stay relevant across each stage of your customer journey. So this is really helpful for the brand.
It's also just like, it's a lot of times I think folks say that, Amazon is, that nobody builds baskets on Amazon. And, but I would argue people do build baskets. They're just asynchronous. And so this, sort of this allowing us to see these insights, as we can see, to your point, like, hey, they started with, shampoo, they then buy hair serum, and eventually they're sort of like coming in the same box. And so there is a basket. It's just not happening synchronously to begin with, but by seeing sort of where the customer's starting on sort of which ASIN, and then how does that, drive discoverability long term. And as well as like, when I look at these within AMC, the larger the catalog, the more interesting. And so there is then this reward for selection, and that if you are a company with lots and lots of ASINs and lots of brands, you have, you actually get more insights, because you have more ASINs and more interactions with customers. And then you can leverage that, to sort of both create, audiences, and introduce your products to more customers, but also measure and see that, over time. And so like when I think about sort of like, enterprise brands where we spend a lot of time, to me, this is a huge competitive advantage for them. And, if you only have one ASIN, not a whole lot you can do. Like it's pretty easy to figure out where a customer's starting. If you have a whole lot of ASINs, it might feel like it's really, complex and challenging. But that's that opportunity. And so would love to, talk to you a little bit about sort of, how do you think about sort of, audience creation, longer term, for these brands?
The one thing that makes AMC so fascinating is that we actually get user ID level data. This is not aggregated. You can actually do your own math within the ecosystem and make sure that, you're targeting the correct audience. And then while you have this 5-year purchase window, you can actually figure out what ASINs work the best for your audiences and send that user ID directly to the audience engine tool. And then, just precisely target the user you want to target instead of just wasting your money on, user you're not going to buy anyway.
And to me, I'm sort of like, it allows us to, we can figure out like, hey, where do we want to target deterministically? Where do we want to use this as a seed to then sort of, increase the scale and target probabilistically? But the fact that at the end of the day, we can measure deterministically, that to me is the big game changer. And so it's like, we'll figure out like sort of what the right audiences are and how we sort of, increase the reach and make sure that we deliver on the appropriate frequency. But being able to see that closed loop and that perfect measurement is fascinating. And at the same time, also being able to measure, frequency, and being able to actually say like, well, what is optimal frequency? And because we can then sort of tie that to conversion events, that we can then say like, oh, for this brand, optimal frequency is 5, is 10, whatever it is. A lot of brands, will say, hey, stop the waste on over frequencying. But I would actually argue it's probably more wasteful just to hit a person one time, with a whole lot of people one time with an ad, versus sort of hitting them multiple times, fewer people multiple times. And so this sometimes dogmatic chase of reach, at the expense of frequency, can have a negative impact. And some of the work that that you did around looking at purchase rate increase as a function of frequency, I thought was fascinating in the sense of just like, what is that sufficiency curve, and how do you sort of recognize that, both by medium, and by brand that varies, and so that you can then figure out like, well, what is my ideal frequency, on a customer level to then drive that outcome that you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about conversion? Tell me a little bit about conversion events, and and how you think about them, and just like as you sort of beyond, like, yes, we like sales, but like, what are the other conversion events that you see in AMC? And then how do you see how do you look at them over time?
Conversions is a term that's definitely, different depending on context. So when we talk about conversions, most people think it's purchases, it's units sold, but it's actually, it means a lot more things. When we talk about DSP, or even when we speak from a higher funnel campaign perspective, conversion could mean a lot of things. It could mean detail page view, add to cart. So achieving conversions is also a win. So like, even if it's not achieving a purchase conversion, achieving a detail page view is still a win for brands looking to launch, higher funnel, streaming TV or DSP campaigns. So conversion is definitely an interesting metric that we're looking at as well inside AMC, and it's also a field that's available. We usually look at conversion from, when looking at DSP, their impact on, higher upper funnel campaigns, and then looking at the complete path to purchase, just to see the impact of higher funnel DSP impact to, leading to how many conversions that users made in terms of detailed page view, add to cart and stuff. So I think recognizing that conversions is not only merely just a purchase conversion event, Yep. It's also very important when evaluating your performance when it comes to, higher funnel campaigns.
Sure. Well, and I think a lot of the work that you've done around sort of, classification of CID by funnel stage, and then, snapping that to return on engagement to then figure out, hey, sort of looking forward, how much value should I expect via each conversion event, becomes it all of a sudden, sort of, bridges into sort of the planning cycle of how brands should consider, not just the end purchase, but the value created by every state across the journey.
So the work that we are doing around CID is that, as I said, CID is such a fascinating aspect inside AMC, so that we can actually customize, we can tag user IDs with a label. For example, even though brands launch different tactics for their DSP campaigns, we actually, get more insights around, what user ID they got hit by a DSP campaign, and we can actually label it based on their historical behavior. Right, with this 5-year purchase data set, it gives us more insight into the consumer's past behaviors, that we can actually, better label them, if the users are actually awareness users. So we can, actually reduce, some waste spend on DSP in terms of audience targeting as well.
Well, and a lot of the work that that you've done over the last year around teasing out made for advertising sites, and sort of using those conversion events to then create an algorithm that then auto filters. Again, like having that closed loop becomes just a fascinating ability to sort of create value, trade on value, not just on cost. I know we're bumping up against time, but what are you looking forward to? What's on your wish list that you want to get out of AMC next?
We're looking to dig more into the audience engine tool because, as I said, user ID is such a fascinating aspect, and we're trying to dive in a little bit more into brands' LTV behavior, because LTV is apparently what the brands care the most about. Sure. And then again, tentpole events is also some people that really care about, because they want to know if their media spend is worth it. Yep. Because they spend a lot of money during tentpole events. So really excited to see how the purchase behavior vary over different periods of time. And then tying that that back to media spend, because again, AMC data currently only have media data for the past year, while having that retail purchase data for the past 5 years. So tying that media back to retail is something that's super important, because not only having, retail doesn't really solve your problem. We need to tie media and retail together. So that's the thing.
Retail, if you will.
Retail, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great catching up with you. Thank you for everything. Always fun to collaborate with you. And look forward to nerding out with you on Slack pretty soon. But thanks again, and we'll chat shortly.
Thank you, Patrick.